The NASDAQ at an all-time high, as are Google, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and Bitcoin, which is up more than 50% since Election Day. And the Fed appears poised for another rate cut this week as well. Is this all an indication of what's to come the next 4 years in a second Trump term? Bankrate senior industry analyst Ted Rossman here to talk the Trump economy at the New York Stock Exchange. Great to have you here, my friend. So those numbers I just laid out, are they indicative of what's to come in a second Trump term?
Well, you know, there's lots of interesting twists and turns along the way. In general, I would say that the economy's in better shape than a lot of people realize. And that's because the fundamentals have been strong. The job market, GDP, people are still not feeling great about the economy, largely because of inflation, the fact that prices are up 20% the past 3 years and wages are up 17%. But even that is starting to shift. After the election, we've seen more optimism. We actually see 44% of Americans now think their personal finances will be better next year. A year ago, that was 37%.
Why do you think that is? Because by about every available metric we have to measure the economy, it was in fantastic shape the last couple of years.
I really think it comes back to the perception that inflation has been too high. It's been gobbling up whatever gains people have been making. This was really a change kind of election. You think about people voted for change, and it flips on a dime. I mean, you look at the party affiliation. Heading into the election, Democrats thought things were pretty good. Republicans thought we were on the wrong track. It instantly flipped afterwards. So the fact that more people are feeling better, I think that's really indicative that Trump won the popular vote. You know, a lot of his voters are really enthusiastic about, they think inflation's going to come down. They think economic growth is going to be good. Democrats think the sky's falling, but it's amazing how quickly it turns like that.
That might be the biggest irony happening right now. People went to the polls because of inflation. They voted for a president who made no bones about it. He plans to stick tariffs, and he right away said our three biggest trading partners. What will be the impact on the prices people pay on virtually everything?
There is some feeling that this could be a negotiating tactic, and it's not ironclad policy yet. So we'll see. That bears watching. Now, to be fair, inflation was pretty low during the first Trump term. So that's maybe a point in his favor. But then again, we still have not overcome all of the pandemic weirdness. You know, it feels like it's been over for a while from a daily life and health standpoint, but from an economic standpoint, I would argue we're still sorting through kind of the last vestiges of the supply chain mismatches. The job market was really topsy-turvy for a while. I mean, at first people were out of work. Then there was that whole great resignation, this whole reimagining of work and, you know, hybrid and work from home and all this stuff. So, you know, we're still kind of sorting through it. This is one of the key questions moving forward. The average person hears lower inflation and they think that prices are rolling back to 2019 levels. Right. Unfortunately, as we know, lower inflation means prices are still growing. They're just growing more slowly. We need to see more months where wage growth outpaces inflation.
And will we?
We've been on that track for the past year or so, but we haven't fully caught up. Since the start of 2021, prices are up 20%, wages are up 17%. And in certain categories, we're even more upside down. You know, you talk to people about what they're paying for housing, medical care, child care. You know, these are all things that have risen. Higher education's another one. You know, things that have risen faster than the overall inflation rate. It's tough. I mean, if you're a Gen Zer or a millennial looking to buy your first house and you hear rates are coming down, but mortgage rates have not come down by very much.
And most say they won't until 2026, and those are the people that solely focus on the real estate market. All this we talk about, including the NASDAQ and the S&P. Let's take that off the table for a minute and talk about the real economy to most Americans, all the factors that are part of a second Trump term. What do they mean to the people watching at home, to their wallet, to their pocketbook?
I would say the economy's in better shape than a lot of people realize, just because unemployment's been low. We hit a 50-year low not too long ago. Now, unemployment's gone up a little bit, but it's still pretty low in the historical context. So the job market's been a good plus. GDP growth has been solid. Consumer spending has been good. Like, we just got the November retail sales figures. They were up almost 4% year over year, which is actually about a full point higher than a lot of the forecasts had been for the holiday season. People are spending. Now, they still grumble about it. It's like, oh, we're spending, but things cost more. We do need to see more wage growth and more sustained improvements there. But honestly, the economy is pretty good. It's the perception that's been lagging, and it is very circular. It just comes back to inflation.
Yeah, because it was pretty good for the last year, even 2 years. People didn't necessarily acknowledge that. Now, what I hear every day here from the traders, from the CEOs we have on the program is the regulatory environment is about to get a lot better for businesses in America. What is that regulatory environment? How will they be impacted? And again, the people at home, will they see that?
I track the credit card market, and I recently wrote a 2025 preview column, and I wrote about how I think regulation is the biggest theme in the credit card world over the next year. For one, the Capital One Discover merger has been stalled for almost a year. I think that's going to move forward now.
Why does that matter? That merger?
That's going to make them the largest credit card issuer by loan volume. So they're going to be able to go much more toe-to-toe with the likes of Chase and other big players. From a network standpoint, it could also prop Discover up as a network, more of a competitor to Visa and MasterCard, which brings me to another regulatory issue, credit card fees, the ones that merchants pay to card companies. It's about 2.2% on average. They grumble about it. There's legislation pending in Congress. There's been class action suits. This is going to be one to watch. The feeling is that Visa and MasterCard, some say, are a duopoly, and they're colluding together. More competition from Discover could be a good thing. Another one to watch is credit card rates. This is one where President-elect Trump has actually talked about a 10% cap.
The rates we pay at our monthly bills.
Yeah, which averages 20%. For some, it's 25 or 30 or even higher. Really high credit card rates. I just got a new card at 30%. It stunned me. I believe it.
So are those rates going to come down? Potentially.
Well, Trump said on the campaign trail he wants to cap rates temporarily at 10%. That's a pretty radical proposal. I mean, Bernie Sanders proposed 15. So, the fact that they're thinking similarly on this is really surprising. Now, honestly, I don't think it'll pass. That's a really tough row to hoe there. And, when push comes to shove, I don't think it would pass. But the fact that the discussion is happening is interesting. The fact that the vice president-elect is one of the co-sponsors of that bill to promote more credit card network competition and perhaps limit fees there, working across the aisle with some Democrats like Dick Durbin has made this a central crusade for him. There is surprising bipartisan agreement that credit card rates and fees are too high. I don't think the most radical changes will happen, but just recently the CFPB capped overdraft fees. They're trying to cap credit card late fees. There are some interesting sort of strange bedfellows on this that Republicans and Democrats are surprisingly agreeing on some of this. It's one to watch for the financial industry.
Strange bedfellows indeed. In particular, you mentioned Trump being to the left of Bernie Sanders on credit rates. That's probably good news for Americans. But you mentioned the CFPB, the DOGE, or Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, say they want to get rid of it. What would that mean for Americans?
Well, this is one that we do have to watch the actions, not just the talk, because Trump talked about capping credit card rates at 10%. I don't think that's going to happen. The CFPB just recently introduced a $5 overdraft fee cap. A lot of people are paying 25 or 30 bucks. Now, that sounds good for consumers. Sometimes there are unintended consequences. One fee goes down, another one pops up. Maybe ATM fees go up. We've already seen some of that. Maybe it becomes harder to get a free checking account. And we've seen some of that as well. Access to credit is important. That's a consequence if credit card rates and fees go down. Does it make it harder to get a credit card? Do rewards get worse? These are all things to watch.
So it's a mixed bag, but overall it sounds like optimism rules the day?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, think about a year ago, everybody said a recession was coming, and it hasn't happened. And now there's a lot of optimism that the Fed's bringing inflation down without causing a recession. Now, they haven't totally licked inflation. I mean, depending on your metric, it's still high 2s, low 3s. I mean, it's not quite at the 2% target. The tricky one for the Fed is that long and variable lag, right? That what they do takes some time to filter through the economy. That's why they're taking their foot off the brake. But it may be that the end game is higher rates than we got used to. Rates were extraordinarily low for most of the time from 2008 up until 22.
So the end of free money, we believe, is, well, over.
And we've mostly seen that. I mean, there's been a repricing of a lot of assets, including buy now, pay later, credit cards, mortgages, really all financial products.
Excellent discussion. He is Bankrate Senior Industry Analyst Ted Rossman. Thanks for being here at the Exchange, my friend.
Good to be here.
Good
Thank
to see you.